done. All right, folks, welcome back to the Be the Bright podcast presented by Ridge Supply. My name is Matt Hawkins. I'm here with Jordan Spoon of our Arsenal account, and our special guest over here, I think, is Matthew Kutilek. Matthew is an Arsenal member, original Arsenal member. He's a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps, and he's up in Northern Virginia. Jordan's down in Cartersville, and I'm over on the eastern seaboard of North Carolina. Welcome, fellas.
We're back.
Good to be back.
Well, we just, the previous episode, we were introducing ourselves to Mr. Kutilek here, and we tiptoed into the Dirty Kansas world. So tell us about how that started. Like, why did you decide? I'd never heard of it, by the way, when you said it for the first time. It wasn't the race that it is today yet.
Right.
So how did that start?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, and Emporia, Kansas, where DK is headquartered out of, or was headquartered out of, or still is only about an hour and a half north of my house. And I've been there several times. So when I started cycling, I just started Googling, some bike races. And then somehow it made the local newspaper where my parents are from. And I saw it and said, hey, you should do this race. And that was in 2012 when I first met you, or 2013. And I didn't sign up because I was too scared I couldn't complete it. That's a huge regret I have. So the first year I did it was 2013. And I did it 5 consecutive years since then. So, once you go to DK 200, the first year I trained for it, took me for a year with your help and Kyle Hansen's help and Josh Adams' help. Actually, I don't think Kyle was there at the time. But anyway, trained for it for a long time and worked up a huge race strategy. And that was the first one I completed. And it was unbelievably emotional crossing that finish line after a 200-mile race, only having started cycling a year and a half prior. And then once you go there, you meet people, and one of my great friends now owns a bike shop there, High Gear Cycler, Matt Brown. You meet more friends, you meet people you want to see every year. That's like a yearly reunion with all your cycling buddies. So I went back 5 straight years. And then as it continued to grow and grow and grow, it's pretty incredible to watch. And then I decided to increase the challenge and do the DKXL last year.
How many miles is DKXL?
It's supposed to be 350, but it was 337 last year because there was a lot of rain. I had to cut off some of the course. So,
13 miles. It's okay.
Prior to that, I'd also done 2 Trans-Iowas. And Trans-Iowas actually, Trans-Iowa started by a guy named Mark Stevenson. He goes by the moniker Guitar Ted. He really deserves the credit for starting the gravel scene. That's his race is in Iowa. It's 350 miles, Q sheet only, no GPSs, in the month of March or April. Very adverse and unpredictable conditions in Iowa. Used to be in Grinnell, Iowa. And Jim Cummings, the original promoter of DK, the one that designed it and created it, he had participated in Trans-Iowa and brought that idea to Kansas. And so Trans-Iowa had done that 2 times. That was 350 miles. One was actually 355 miles because I missed a turn, so you got to backtrack. So anyway, that's how I got introduced on the gravel cycling scene. And the reality is I'm pure, weak amateur hour. So I have to find the hardest races possible, the most miserable conditions to try and even the playing field against some of these incredible athletes. Case in point, my best DK finish ever was the quote unquote mud year a couple of years ago. And it was this unbelievable mud, just hike a bike, terrible conditions, broken derailleurs everywhere, chains. And I ended up finishing, I think 19th or 21st, something like that, because of the adverse conditions. And now the talent level in the gravel scene is absolutely incredible. And I think I predicted a couple of years ago that eventually there'll be a UCI sanctioned gravel race in the Midwest or somewhere, even a tour in the United States in the next 5 years. I don't know if this global pandemic has delayed anything, but it's the way that the United States and the globe is trending in the cycling industry.
Yeah, we've got so much opportunity to put on events like that are infrastructure wise are so much easier to do than some of the others. I will say too, just to go back to when you first brought this up, I didn't doubt you at all, but no joke, like there was a huge fitness jump that you had to make just to even do and complete the first year. And knowing you now for, 7, 8 years and watching you progress, you do, what you said is really true. Like, you really do excel when it's hard and it's difficult. And you're a very strong cyclist. And one of the things that you always did that used to annoy me, and I still joke you about it, is when we would ride together, in a small group, you would always ride over almost near the yellow line by yourself, instead of taking pulls, or not taking pulls, but instead of drafting. And I would always joke, and be like, dude, you're gonna blow yourself up if you don't get over here and rest. And you would be like, no, I've got to do my fair share. And so one of my nicknames for you is Fair Share, and you still do it. We just rode together a couple weeks ago, and you were still doing the same thing. And so that mentality is actually, I think, just a window into what it takes to do all that stuff that is 8, 9, 10, 24-hour, events. Because your brain eventually, doesn't it just, it starts to turn on you,
Yeah, you got it. Every race is an experience, is a learning experience opportunity. And so you've got to train your mind to stay engaged at where you're at right then, break the race apart into 25-mile segments. Sometimes I break it apart in 10-mile segments just because of the misery of it, especially the longer races. So I'm doing a race here in 3 weeks in Iowa called the Iowa Wind and Rock. Sarah Cooper and Steve Fuller put that race on. They're both, that's basically the spinoff of Trans Iowa that stopped operating 2 years ago. So it's 337 miles, and largely by yourself. And I've done Trans Iowa. I went solo for 200 miles, 2 years in a row. And so riding 200 miles through the night, a couple of years ago, it got down. I was dressed for literally about 42 degrees is what I planned on. But you're in the middle of Iowa in the middle of March. It got down to 24 degrees. And so imagine being dressed for 42 and it's down 24. You got to have mental toughness, and have experience to rely back on to get yourself through those. But it doesn't always turn out well. Last year I did the first edition of Iowa Wind and Rock. And after, it was extremely arduous conditions. It was warm, and there was an unbelievable amount of hills and massive, large gravel they had just put down after a harsh winter. And I got to mile 195 and I was in second place. And for the first time in my entire life, I stopped and I quit that race. I just didn't feel like, from a military standpoint, it had the no-go criteria. And mentally, my intuition is wisdom plus experience, told me to stop. My wife had just had our fourth daughter. She was 5 months old. And I really felt like I needed to stop. So even though I was in second place, I stopped. And I look back on that and I still get angry at myself for stopping. But at the same time, it's maybe a mature decision based off of experience of racing some of those larger gravel races, and knowing that I just didn't feel like I could get through the night safely and endanger my life, because I knew I had to push myself as hard as possible to try to get in first place. And I don't know if it was worth it. But now I will say that that's one of the motivation factors of me training so hard the last 7 months for Iowa again. I was in Iraq last year and I wasn't going to be able to do it again. But since the pandemic, they rescheduled to October. So I was able to train for the last 6 months. And that's been one of the deep down motivating factors, is that, hey, you quit last year, justified or not. So time to redeem yourself this year. And we'll see how I do in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And you've also, just because you need another challenge, you decided to pick up running again.
Slacking off. That's correct. So last November, I was deployed to downtown Baghdad, Iraq, in a really small base. And this previous March was my 10-year anniversary of getting shot and almost losing my leg. And for 10 years, I had not been able to run whatsoever. I run twice a year for my physical fitness test. It's extremely painful. But I really felt like the Lord wanted me to start running again and show that, hey, look, the healing power is pretty amazing of the human body. So I started running in Iraq last November. First one was a half mile, then a mile, then 2 miles. There was a 1 mile loop around the base we were at. And so then I was like, I'm gonna do a marathon in 2020 to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of getting shot. And you gotta understand, my toes in my right foot do not bend. They're fused straight. I have a screw in my big toe. My other ones are fused straight. They don't bend, so I can't push off. I'm missing half a calf muscle where the bullet exited. And I don't have all the flexation in my foot. But the body overcomes this stuff. and figures out proper compensation. And so I started running. After about the first 200 miles, I had to run in downtown Baghdad, where it was the first time I had a fluid gait for about more than a mile or 2 miles. And I started crying. I'm like, man, I can do this. And so I started running. I ran a 10K. Then on 5 March 2020, so the 10-year anniversary of the day, I made an announcement on my social media page that, hey, I'm going to run a marathon this year. I actually ran a half marathon that day for the first time in Iraq. And it was a very emotional experience. And then since then, in the last year, it's coming up on 11 months now, I've ran about 850 miles.
Wow.
I just ran 20 miles yesterday.
Casual.
7:52 casual pace. So my plan is to run that marathon about 2 weeks after Iowa. And my goal is to run as fast as I can. I would have ran it a couple of months ago, but unfortunately my time started decreasing. And so the competitive person I am, I'm trying to make the most of this opportunity and get my times down. So I'm still working on where I'm going to do it at and how I'm going to do it. But it's just a testament to the amazing human body and what we're capable of if we just set our mind to it. I mean, I don't take any credit for it whatsoever.
Well, you should take some credit for it, because it takes, I know with 4 kids in your career, I mean, just working it in is a testament to, you know, who you are and how you are. There's a couple people that we're sort of associated with that, there's so many days when I don't do anything and I'm just like, these guys, they're just out there crushing it every day. And so that's always an inspiration. You know, when we first started following your journey, I guess, of this sort of ultra endurance style, the one thing that, you know, when you mentioned your Wind and Rock experience, you know, I understand it now, but I couldn't really compute it. 'Cause I think you communicated either with, I think you might've told, I think I got a text message from you or something, right? Like while
Right.
you
I was texting you and Lee, or somehow Lee, he texted our good friend Lee Hemming,
yeah,
Oz, and you were there with him. And that was just, it's a racing dynamic. I was discouraged on the side of the road. The sun was going down in the middle of nowhere, Iowa.
yeah,
And I'm in second place, and I'm trying to convince myself mentally to suck it up, but I just couldn't do it. And that's when the intuition popped in, and I had to make a mature decision. But it was extremely frustrating then. My mom was my race support. She came and picked me up, and I was just embarrassed and disappointed. But at the same time, it may have saved me from crashing hard, busting my skull, breaking a leg. You just don't know. But you got to use that experience as a motivation factor for the future. I guarantee you, when I go out there in 3 weeks, it's not going to be, unless I have a massive mechanical or something like that, I will not stop whatsoever.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how that works out. 'Cause I know Iowa's got something coming for it. So we'll look forward to that.
And if you've never been to Iowa, it's incredible gravel. People don't realize there's so many hills there. One of the Trans Iowas I did, 350 miles, had 23,000 feet of climbing. 23,000, and it's nothing but gravel.
Wow.
So endless miles of unadulterated, harsh gravel. And they put this thick riverbed gravel down before and after wintertime to solidify the roads when it freezes and when it snows. So it's beautiful, but at the same time, it can be ruthless. And the wind, and just, it can be windy like Kansas. It's awesome.
Sounds like a great challenge. Well, thank you. Thank you, Matthew, for wrapping up episode 34 with us on the Be the Bright podcast. Thanks, Jordan. We'll be back for one more, and appreciate you guys being here.
All right.